to call this Ways and Means Committee meeting of Tuesday, December 7, 2021 to order. Could we have roll call, please?
Fox.
I'm here.
Radke.
Here?
Here.
Here. Johnson.
Here.
Kuhlman.
Here.
Krieger.
Yes.
Hornburg.
Are there any changes to the agenda? Okay, hearing none then, is there approval of the agenda?
So moved. Support.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Is there a motion for approval of the minutes of November 2nd?
So moved. Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. All right, at this time, public input. Please go to the podium, state your name and address. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes or less.
My name is Keith Markstrom, and as president of the Bay Veterans Foundation, I'm here today again to advocate for ARPA funds in support of the Bay Area Veterans Workshop and Learning Center. You know, we understand after the conversation last week at the special meeting, there's still some uncertainty whether funds can be used to support a veterans project of this nature. We believe the ARPA legislation that allows for this project to be appropriately funded is found in the very first guideline, which states funds can be used in response to the COVID-19 public health emergency or its negative economic impacts. Our project has suffered from serious downturn of the economy due to COVID pandemic. We've experienced supply chain issues. The contractor labor force has been affected, and the private sector and outside foundations have diverted significant funds to combat results of the pandemic. As stated last week, we are a 501c3 charitable not-for-profit organization. We are not a veteran service organization with an IRS designation like the American Legion, the PLAV, or VFW. We are receiving ARPA funding from the City of Bay City as well as the State of Michigan. The county allocation comes from the same federal source and is directed by the same guidelines. Without the doors open, we already are having a positive impact on local veterans as well as the general community, which has been detailed in the application that we've submitted for this funding. The project is already making a difference aesthetically, environmentally, and economically. We also understand there is concern the workshop may fail, and then if so, what do you do to explain the use of these public funds? One answer is to follow the state's lead with a contract paid to invoice, and any non-use of funds is returned. Same with Bay City, a contract that stipulates what is expected and due diligence by oversight. These are trying times, but we have to start taking different approaches to try something different to support unique actions that may not have been done elsewhere. I hope when this project is completed and open for use, and when you drive by and see the activity that's going on, or when you hear the positive accomplishments of the folks who benefit from the workshop, you say to yourself, boy, I sure am glad I voted to support that venture. We still welcome you to come and witness the progress that's being made at the building.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, seeing none, moving on to petitions and communications, the Boys and Girls Club, their ARPA presentation.
Hi, good afternoon. A little networking during your meeting. I'm Jen Carpenter. I'm the CEO of the Boys and Girls Club. Thank you for accepting our application for these funds. They're really important funds for our Boys and Girls Club. I wanted to make a couple things real clear, just in case everybody isn't. I know there's a lot of funding out there, city, county. This money we are trying to use specifically for our Pinconning and our Essexville clubs. Any other funding from ARPA funding, we are looking from other areas, for instance, Bay City and then Saginaw would stick directly with those clubs. I'm not going to take a lot of time because I'm the one, we just talked about this, I sit in front of the computers. What I did want you to know is the programs that we have. I put this in front of all your stations. One of the things that I didn't realize when I started Boys and Girls Club were all the quality programs that we have that deal with so many different initiatives. And I've given you just a little sampling of some of the things we do that really, they cover STEM, they cover art, social, emotional, trauma training. There's so many different initiatives that we work with these kids every day in our clubs, both after school and during the summer, that I wanted you to be aware of those. But Wendy Friend, she is our club director in Essexville. We did not plan this, but she couldn't be here because of COVID, ironically. They actually had to close their club this week because we don't have enough staff. So if that tells you how much we do need this funding, it's very clear. Nick, I think you've got it queued up, and then I'm going to have Rhonda Tushak from our Pinconning Club come up and talk to finish out, because we'll try to stick under that 10 minutes. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Wendy Friend. I run the Essexville unit of the Boys and Girls Clubs of the Great Lakes Bay region. I want to start by telling you thank you very much for letting me video chat in. Unfortunately, I've been hit by the COVID bug, so I could not be there in person today. But I am the one that wrote the grant for the funding. I'm suffering severe short staffing issues, which is why I wrote the grant in the first place. I just wanted to let you know a couple facts about Essexville, just so that you have some background information. Right now, I have approximately 100 kids a day. Pre-COVID, I had closer to 200. My average was 192. There were days that I had over 200. There were some days that I had quite a bit less, especially Fridays. But right now, I'm so short-staffed that I have a waiting list with just as many kids on it as I have in my club every day. So like I said, I have 100 there. I also have about 110 kids on a waiting list. And it's been that way since probably March of 2019. This funding would mean a great deal to the Essexville unit. I think Pinconning is in pretty much the same boat as I am. Without staffing, we can't ensure the safety of the kids. And without being able to ensure their safety, we can't let that many kids in. So we have to have reliable staff, and we have to be able to have money to pay that reliable staff. Because the COVID bug got me just a little bit more information that might help this process along, I am so short-staffed that I had to close my doors this week and the end of last week, which obviously if I have 100 kids a day, that affects 100 kids, probably not 100 families, probably more like 80 families that are severely affected by this. I do have 3 parents that I would like to focus on because they actually called me. They can't send their kids to school this week because they don't have after-school care for them. They are at work, so the bus won't drop them off at home. In Essexville, unlike other places, our buses won't drop off kids grades, kindergarten through 4th grade cannot be dropped off at home without somebody actually at home to get them off of the bus. So because there was going to be nobody home, they couldn't send them to school because there's no after-school care. Out of these 3 families, 2 of them really desperately need to be in school. They're behind anyway. And without us there, they don't have homework help in the afternoon. They're not going to school at all. And chances, unfortunately, are that from the time their parents go to work until the time they get home from work, they are home alone. One of the kids is in 4th grade, one is in 3rd, and one is in 5th for the kids that that did call me, the parents begging to know when we were going to be open or if I had a staff that would be willing to babysit, which of course is completely not okay to do. We can't babysit or be with kids one-on-one, as I'm sure all of you probably know. This funding is so extremely important to our unit. I think in particular, just because we have such a big unit, and normally pre-COVID, I think I had 12 staff. And right now, including myself, I have 6. It's half staffing, half the kids. The kids need it. They're suffering without it. They're home alone and they shouldn't be. Some of them are home in a situation that they shouldn't be in. Just some of them need to be able to come so that they get help with homework because they're failing and they don't have anybody at home that can help them. And it's a race to get your application in. Our system automatically shuts down when we have a certain number. When we hit our cap, our system shuts down and it won't let anybody else in. And we have no control over that. So it could be, people that really have other options that just happen to get their applications in first are the ones that get the spots, and the people that need it the most aren't able to get in. Right now, it's just a race and a guessing game as to who's going to be allowed to come in. So any funding at all would be helpful. I know Pinconning, again, is in pretty much the same boat that I'm in. So this $300,000 would mean so much to us. Thank you.
Sorry. I am Rhonda Tushek. I'm the unit director for Pinconning, and I think Wendy summed it up very well. However, she didn't necessarily let us know what our summer program looks like. Our summer program is much longer day, so we're there for 10 hours a day with the kiddos while their parents are at work. We touch on everything from social emotional to literacy, STEAM, life skills. There's a lot that goes into our days, and like Wendy said, and she attested to it very well, we are super short-staffed. The amount of kids that we have and the amount of staff that we have, we could definitely do more with more. So thank you for your valuable time.
I'll make it quick. I'm a board member, just here to support the staff. I've been on the board a long time.
I'm sorry, who are you?
Fred Cook. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Essexville was started many years ago by Jack Wirt. Asked us to start Essexville back over 20 years ago. Pinconning was started by the sheriff up there. When we opened the club, we raised the money, over $1 million, to open that club. As most of you know, it's pretty tough to get funding in Essexville, or in Pinconning. One thing they did not mention that's important is we were, to my knowledge, the only youth organization that stayed open all through COVID. We serviced kids. When the schools were closed, they came to our clubs. We fed them breakfast and lunch from funding. We did get PP money, okay, so we did have assistance from that end. That's a question that some people do ask us. But the club in Pinconning's been open over 20 years by the community. It's tough to raise money up there, as all of you know, so any help you can give to us from the board standpoint, we support the clubs 100%. But we built the club and the kids have come there. And from a board member, I've been on the board a long time. And one of the benefits of that is I see some of the results. And I was at a meeting years ago when Colin Powell spoke. He was on our original board, and he likened it to a business that, would you invest in a business that pays you dividends for the rest of your life and profits the community immediately? And he sold this to business people such as yourselves and community leaders. And our club does that. Our dividend is our youth that we've come out of our clubs over the last 30 years. We've got golf pros in Florida, and from Essexville, we had the Youth of the Year from our whole country came out of Pinconning. TJ Rancor, who's a businessman now. We have a chef in a major place in Rhode Island that I've met. So I've benefited by seeing these kids come back over the years and been successful, and thank the club for what we did for them. So we do pay dividends to this community, and it's in the form of our youth. So thank you for your time.
Mr. Coonan?
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair.
He was first.
You want to go, Ernie? You go first if you want to go.
Thank you.
Because remind me what I was going to say.
I have more hair than you, so we're good to go. The question I have for whichever individual, what do you think the time span will be that'll be able to get you the personnel that'll help getting your two organizations up and running? Any idea on?
Well, we're focusing strictly on Pinconning and Essexville. We've already received funds for Bay City, so Bay City is taken care of. It's over a period of time. But normally, right now, we already have breakfast and lunch for the kids. Okay, we did it during COVID. We service them through the summer programs right now. Staff varies from part-time to college students, etc. So we can do it fairly rapidly. Over, what did you say, Jan, a month, 2 months, 3 months? It varies. I mean, it's obviously, as you know, from being a businessman, it's tougher and tougher to
Find
hire people.
Correct.
So I don't think we can tell you specifically, but a lot of our staff comes part-time, or we do some programs with Saginaw Valley for some of the students there that work at the club. So that we can get credit for it if they're recreation majors or...
But you're pretty optimistic that you'll be able to fill those spots?
Yes.
And one of the things that this money will help us with, that we've actually talked to the city about, we've already got all of our positions that are open out on our website, out on Facebook, on the internet, where all the people that look for jobs nowadays. But one of the things that we've had a challenge with, and we spoke with the city funding about this, is keeping up with competition. For instance, if you've got somebody that can go to McDonald's, everybody knows the story. If you can go there and make $16, $15, we need to keep up with something like that. So that's one of the things that we've talked about putting into this funding, is kind of keeping our staffing minimum up with the economy. We've had interviews. We've got another interview on Thursday for Bay City. We are constantly looking for people of quality to hire. So I think if we have this money, we know that it is guaranteed. Bay City, we've already started hiring. I think we will have a new unit director by the end of the week. We've got unit directors, we've got assistant unit directors, and then we've got our team. Yes, like the team that's YDPs, that's the larger amount of staff there, that we've already started hiring for Bay City, because that money is, we've already gone through the protocol. They've approved it. So once we are approved for any monies, we'll start immediately. And we've already got resumes for some people in Bay that we can go back to.
And my other follow-up would be, are you looking at expanding some of the programs then with the kids?
Well, now that COVID's over, well, COVID's not over, one of the problems we had in the past, for instance, we used to occasionally rent the club, some of the club to pay expenses in the county. Because of COVID, we have to spread the kids out. We eliminated bingo in Bay City, we eliminated any renters in Pinconning because of the space area. So until COVID, hopefully by the summer, then we can expand. Because we already have the fixed assets. You were gracious enough, if you remember, a year ago to give us $15,000 so we could finish the last air conditioning unit on our Pinconning club. So the basic needs will be filled as COVID comes down and we can continue to expand. But right now, as Wendy mentioned on there, we're almost capacity. It's just getting staff to handle the capacity in Essexville. Pinconning, I don't believe we're at capacity right now.
Well, we're not at capacity in Bay, or I'm sorry, in Essexville. We can take more kids, they're just on our waiting list.
Okay.
So we don't, like, for instance, we have some of the Essexville staff working at Bay City this week because they had to close because of the COVID protocol. So the more staff that we can put on immediately, we actually have those people on our waiting list. I think she said it was almost the same size as the list that we are currently serving. Thank you. So yes, immediately. And we actually did this last year. We had some kids, it was at Essexville again, that we didn't have enough staff. We got a small grant from United Way, and immediately they said, this is what we can give you. And we said, okay, we're hiring more people. By the next week, we let those people come off the waiting list. So if that's the timeline kind of that you're looking at, that's how quickly it will be.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Coonan?
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to contribute the $300,000 that you folks are asking for both, for Pinconning and Essexville, to get you rolling, let you know we do support you. And with that motion, I guess I would need some support. I'd support it.
Okay, that requires three-quarter vote, I believe, because it's not an agenda item. You first have to move to add it to the agenda.
Oh, I thought that was on the agenda.
It is a presentation.
Just a presentation.
It's just a presentation.
Well, whatever we got to do in order to get it going, if we add it to the agenda, or if we want to,
Bob, is that considered on the
we
agenda?
can do it next Tuesday.
Or can we move it?
Could add it to new items.
Add it to something, or new business?
New business at the end of the meeting.
After we got all the requests, then we would do appropriations. It's up to the board.
Okay, but Mr. Coonan wants to add it to the agenda to move to Tuesday. Go ahead.
The reason, just for clarification purposes, that Boys and Girls Club was presenting today was because it was determined to be an immediate use need outside of the bundle. But it would be possible under new business to add it at that point in time, Commissioner Coonan, and it can be voted on.
I'd like to let them know we support them as to all the good work that they're doing in the community for kids. And that's what these ARPA dollars are for, transformational. And if you invest in kids like you all spoke, I think it's just great. And I also encourage you to think about expanding, whether it's in the summer or whatever programs, because that's where the money needs to go to kids, in my view. A lot of it anyway.
So I have some questions, actually. So pre-COVID, what was your waiting list like?
So I'll answer this one. We didn't have a waiting list. So in Pinconning, for example, pre-COVID, our average daily attendance was 111 kiddos. That's just Pinconning and Southern Standard, so
Okay.
Southern Internet County, that would waddle in. For Essexville, pre-COVID, her average daily attendance was 200. So because she's in a school, she has a larger facility, she has more room to spread those kiddos out, she can take on more. But without that staff, without that quality and that program, it's...
So then during COVID, you lost staff and your waiting lists went up?
Yes, because we were down to 50 youth that we could serve per day.
Okay.
So the ratio was 1 to 10. So if you had 5 team members, then you could only have 10 club members in the building.
And how long would you expect this funding to sustain you, and then what happens once the funding is gone?
So that's a great question. I'll defer to Jen. I don't get to see that side very often, so I can't answer that. I apologize.
I thought you were going to say, earlier we were talking about this, and she said, I'm going to ask for funding for 20 years. I was like, go ahead.
I did.
That's a great question. It costs a lot to keep our clubs open and keep them staffed, all 5 of our clubs. We have an aggressive fundraising campaign right now. All I do is write grants and ask for money, so I am a glorified beggar at this point. We are working to get as many grant funds as we can, specifically for the clubs that need more capacity. Essexville is one of those, obviously, because we've got such a large waiting list. I don't know how to say this properly, but when we're not in trouble, and this goes with other organizations too, when you're not in trouble, people aren't as likely to have that urgency to fund you. So I am right, and he's laughing as I said this. Nonprofit organizations always need money, but right now, I am in a situation where I'm raising as much money as I possibly can for next year because I know what happened during COVID. Schools shut down. They were the ones that stayed open. So typically we have after school and we have summer programming. During COVID, the schools were closed. I don't know how many of you have young kids. I have a 15-year-old, so I know they were home all the time. For anybody that has younger kids, sometimes they had to go to work. They were essential. The place that they went to were our clubs. They had school at our club. So I am planning ahead of time for this whole year to try to get funding secured for the entire year within the first couple months in case we have problems. We never know where our funding is coming from. So we are very aggressive right now, wherever we can get it from.
We have, the board's responsibility is to raise money. One of the main reasons, and that is through foundations, individual giving. We also receive money from the Department of Juvenile Justice on a national program of about $65,000 or $70,000. In the past, strictly for Bay City, because they designate it, we've got money from the Nicholas Family Trust, which did the Bay City down park, but they also helped us run Bay City during COVID. They gave us a grant to help us to stay open during, but that money can only, a lot of the money we get is specific to areas. For instance, Saginaw money stays Saginaw, Bay City. There's some people in foundations, a lot of it's brick and mortar, Cancer Foundation, Smith Foundation, help us when air conditionings go out, etc. Department of Juvenile Justice money needs to go to program. So we're constantly moving. We do fundraisers, golf outing, a Night to Remember dinner. Our Night to Remember dinner, we just raised $38,000.
Which is normally $100,000.
Normally, because we didn't have the people there, we usually raise 100. We raised 38 this year because the number of people that you can only make so much money zooming people in for fundraisers. So a lot of our fundraisers were cut back, particularly people where we had them in person. And hopefully that will recover in the next year or two, and we'll be back to receiving the money we get in person contributions. So it's a varying, and obviously the board members also participate, Christmas cards, that type of thing. But some of the money comes from the government, the federal. We have a state agency, the Michigan Area Council, that we get $10,000 to $15,000 a year from. So it comes from not as much. When we built Pinconning, probably 25% of our money came from the federal government, through the Department of Juvenile Justice. And that was when Jim Marsha was on the federal side of the equation. And we got a fairly substantial amount of money. Well, that obviously changed as the government situation changed. So that's a very little part of our fundraising money now. Of the $1.5 million or whatever we raise now, only less than 10% comes from the federal government.
So I guess our short answer is we're going to stay open no matter what. No matter what, it's how many members we can have in our clubs and how much we can grow and to actually get back to the numbers that the clubs were at pre-COVID.
Mr. Herrick.
So maybe I missed something. So are you going to come back here next year and ask for $300,000?
No. Well, my understanding is this money can be spread over 5 years, correct?
4.
4 years, my apologies. 4 years. So we will have a plan in place that it will be sustainable after that time.
What we will do come back is once a year and tell you what we used and what we used before.
So you're using so you need the $300,000, you need like $300,000, I mean $200,000, or anything you can get.
Correct. However, you tell us when you know.
We could utilize it all in 2 months if we gave it to
How
us,
do you want
things
us-
that we need
But
probably.
bottom line, we're committed to keep it for Essexville and Pinconning, period. It will not be used for the Bay City Club.
And how much did you get by the city, Bay City?
230, I think.
Oh, 240, yeah.
40, what we got from Bay
And
City.
so we're currently making a plan for Bay City only for new positions. There's a kind of a list that George Martini and I went through that we're putting down for things that are acceptable.
And what is the size of the Bay City Club compared to Essexville and Pinconning?
Essexville is within Berlin School and then within Kramer.
But I mean, people that are served right now, like how many people, what kind of participation do you have in Bay City compared to Pinconning and Essexville?
They have more in Essexville and in County right now than in Bay City.
Oh, okay.
What is your, I don't want to be on the spot, but approximately how many are your numbers right now?
So for Pinconning, our average daily attendance right now is 68. And that gives or takes. I think our highest number in November was 77 youth in one day. And then there's other days where you're down to 60 or 61. And that's usually a full day where parents aren't relying on busing to bring them there. So I can't, off the top of my head, answer for Bay City. Essexville, I think Wendy summed up for herself. So I wouldn't know the Bay City off the top of my head.
During COVID, we had a waiting list. And we were at, what they call it, 90, 95?
Yeah, I want to say Essexville right now is over 100. And they have about the same
You
amount.
mean
of
Bay
waiting lists.
City?
No, Essexville
Yeah,
right
I'm
now.
saying yes, about Bay City. We were maximum because of size during COVID, 95. I'm not sure what
Essexville, Bay City, and Berlin, is that what you said?
Essexville is in Berlin School during the school year for after school, and then during the summer, they transition over to Kramer Middle School because they utilize the pool and all the different activities that they can do during the summer, garden and things like that.
Mr. Koenig?
Yes, thank you, ma'am. I think if we address this under miscellaneous and with the $300,000 that they will put it to good use, so is that how we want to do this, is address it under miscellaneous?
Can we move it to new business within this meeting?
Yes, new business is at the end of the meeting.
Yeah. Go with that.
New
If I can have
business.
Yes,
just a
Mr.
bit.
Johnson.
Thanks.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So, no, that's all right. So basically, if I'm listening correctly to what Wendy had said, and currently you serve approximately 100 club members a day where she's at. Right now, they're closed because of
Just
the
this
issue
week.
for this week. There is a waiting list which is approximately the same as the amount of students that are currently being served, which would affect approximately 80 families, of which you've got 80 families then in the area that are scrambling for what they're going to do with their children after school. I'll tell you, my kids utilized the Boys and Girls Club when our children were of that age, living in Essexville. It's a great program. It was a wonderful situation for my kids. If it was closed down, my kids probably would have been spending a lot of time alone, stuck there while we were in meetings and other things from school. And that's not what folks want. You also look at the fact that you've got at least just 2 instances, and I'm sure there are more, of students who on days cannot even attend school because there's not any way for them to be able to get to school and no ride for them to get back. Where if they get to school, there's a spot for them immediately after school, right there, right on campus, for them to be able to use this. So, and when you're looking at possible reasons as to why this, of course, would fit, if you wanted to go ahead and give this for the ARPA funds, and I know it was already put in the big plan, and I know it is there for immediate use because of the situation. You've got anything that is an immediate concern due to the pandemic. You've got parents who have to be back to work. They want to be back to work. They've got no place to put their kids. You've got kids that are missing school. And we know how bad that is. And then you add on top of that some of the anxiety and mental issues that can happen with our children because they are separated from their peers. They don't have a spot to go where they can kind of unwind. And they don't have those mentors that you guys supply for them after school. I mean, my children had great relationships with the people there. So, I mean, it checks all the possible boxes you could ever possibly need to have for something that needs to happen. It needs to happen as soon as possible. So I would be all for trying to do this as quickly as we can. I mean, I know it's $300,000 that they're asking for. And I know that you asked about how long that would sustain them. That was one of my mental processes as well. You always wonder when you give money to things. Getting plenty of grants myself at various schools where I'm at, when the grant money's gone, now what do you do to be able to keep that sustainable? But when you're looking at the fact that another reason why this is an immediate thing that comes right from the pandemic, your fundraising is down because you can't have the typical fundraisers you would have ordinarily had. People don't show up because people aren't going to show up to things in person, and so therefore you're not getting the money from them. So a big piece of this is filling probably the gaps that they would have been able to raise in money to be able to hire some of these people in the first place. So in that case, if you're always looking for money, that's a never-ending, that's a never-ending thing anyway. So the give would be maybe filling some of that back loss and helping them get moving right away, knowing that they're always going to be looking for more money. This is just how it works. Same thing with schools. We're always looking for more money.
Well, the one thing we haven't discussed is an overall plan in general for ARPA dollars and who gets what. So something to think about between now and new business, is it appropriate now, or do we try to make all of our giving part of a bigger plan? Amber, do you see any challenges legally that this would not fall under ARPA?
I think that this qualifies for ARPA funding, but I do think that it would be necessary to enter into an agreement with the Boys and Girls Club outlining how they were going to be spending the money and outlining the fact that they would have to spend it within the timelines as required by the legislation.
And
so for our reporting purposes.
Reporting purposes.
Yes.
What about
Yeah, we
measuring
track that.
effectiveness of uses of the funds?
I don't think I understand your question.
Well, so if I guess I'm looking at everybody, but talking at you. So if we were to give 200,000 or 300,000 to anybody, then how do we measure, how do they report back the success of the give? That it served its need, its purpose? See, she knows where I'm headed. Go ahead.
You got to collect the data.
Sure, and I think in addition to the agreement, you have the entity come back and they give a presentation to the board to give them an explanation of how that money was spent and the impact that it had on their programming.
Absolutely, and that's what we're working on with the other clubs. We haven't been approved for anything in Saginaw yet, so we haven't got to that point with Bay City. We're talking about a reporting system where we actually show, and I'll be transparent on what they've talked about, is they've talked about the difference between positions and the raises that they got from COVID and what we need to hire people in, and quality people, I should say, very quality people, and all of the other expenses, kind of like a Department of Education, if any of you have seen the federal grants. There's just the line items, what they are, whether it's materials, whether it's payroll, whether it's benefits, everything that goes into that money. We can, by all means, report all that to you on whatever timeline basis you want. As far as programs we have, you could also get some of the results that we have on those as far as the programs that I gave you the handouts on. There's Project Learn, there's several other different programs that you can measure the literacy, all the different elements that we're doing. We do some things called DESA.
Yeah, so we do have the availability to produce SEL, literacy, math improvements, and those things will show with having those specific staff or team members there that can assist more hours in a day or exclusively to those programs. So we will have those metrics for you.
Okay. Bob?
I would suggest that the board set up a procedure before you start appropriating funds.
Okay. That can be a new business conversation. Oh, Vaughn.
Yeah, I agree with Bob. I think we need to have, if we're going to ask people to give us reports, when we give them money, we need to have something set up ahead of time. If we're going to do a contract or whatever we do, if we're going to ask that of everybody.
Kim?
Whether we have a contract, I don't have a problem with that. But we've got two organizations today seeking money, and nobody says that we have to take all $20 million and say this is going here, here, and here. We got two worthy programs today, and I think we should give them the money, and then if we want to sit down, nobody's really discussed how we wanted to do this, but we should not make these folks wait because we want to put together a program or allocate all the dollars all at one time. I don't think that makes sense. If there's a good program, a good project, let's fund it. And then we can continue from this point on with the rest of the dollars. So I'm not gonna, maybe we can have a plan after this, but we shouldn't make these folks wait because we don't have a plan.
Any other comments? Casey, do you have anything to add to the whole conversation? What do you think?
I just know that there is a need for after-school programs. I'm a teacher. Thankfully, our elementary children, my husband's working from home, so it isn't an issue this year. But if he were back in Midland, working in his office, it would be a nightmare for us. I understand the urgency and the need for the program to get the extra staffing, because the wait list, as was mentioned by Wendy, is longer than, or just as long as, the students that are currently in the program. So myself personally, I think it's a necessity.
Okay.
The need's there.
Anybody else? I won't call on anybody else. All right, we'll move on to item B. There's a resolution from the Drain Commissioner to correct
So
the
moved.
assessment rules.
Support.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, there is a resolution from the Sheriff Department for acceptance of the supplemental appropriation.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item D, there's a resolution from the Friend of the Court seeking approval of the grant award.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item E, there's a resolution from the Department of Aging for acceptance of a grant award.
Support. Move. Sorry. I got used to being the second one. Sorry about that.
Support.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right. Item F1, there is a resolution for the bathhouse project in Pinconning Park, an extension of the time frame to apply for the grant. All right. You could let me finish. Jeez. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And then there's a resolution for an agreement with Spicer Group for engineering services relative to the bathhouse project.
So moved.
Support. Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, item G, there is an approval seeking a resolution seeking approval of a 2022 remuneration grant.
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, in item H, there is a motion, goodness gracious, there's a resolution for appropriation for the Bay County Veterans Workshop and Learning Center.
So moved. Support.
Moved and supported. Discussion. Vaughn?
I need to recuse myself. I'm on the board.
Okay.
Can't vote.
So as this resolution is written, it is a general fund
That's right.
contribution.
Well, no, excuse me. Deanne, go ahead. It's ARPA funds.
Where is that updated?
It will be.
Okay. So this has been changed to from ARPA funds?
To ARPA.
To ARPA funds. Okay. So that comes back to also a proposal of a plan and a contract, and is doing work on the building an acceptable, are we confident this is an acceptable use of ARPA funds? Amber?
It is my understanding that the application that is being given by the Veterans Foundation indicates that this is money similar to the Boys and Girls Club that would supplement losses of fundraising during COVID. That being said, because this is a 501c3 entity, if you are supplementing money that they were unable to raise due to being negatively impacted by COVID, is an acceptable use of ARPA funding. However, you would still be required to enter into an agreement that would indicate what the money was being used for reporting purposes, and the impact of how that money was used as well. So whether it would be used for capital improvements, if it would be used for programming, if it would be used for staffing costs, that would have to be set forth in the agreement, and that would have to be reported to the federal government in accordance with ARPA guidelines and reporting. If that answers the question.
That answers my question.
So would that make sense that something would have to be presented first that says how the money's being used beforehand?
You would have to make a determination on how that money would be used. For instance, with the Boys and Girls Club, they've indicated that they would be using that money 100% for staffing. So I don't know. I don't know what the money would be used for as it relates to the Veterans Foundation. The representative is here. He could indicate that.
In our application, which we submitted in July, it stated for general construction, so that we can continue to work towards opening the building. And just like we haven't seen the contract with the city, but it was for similar purposes, construction and improvements that are allowable within the guidelines of ARPA funding. Our state contract, which we're just dealing with, they've given us a list of areas that we select, and they will pay to invoice on a quarterly basis. So, and that is primarily construction.
So you could be more specific, couldn't you, or no?
Sure. We could specify within the construction what it's going for and how that impacts funding, or programming, and utilization of the building. I know we're on uncharted grounds here, and we're willing to work back and forth. It's just that, just like this organization, I think the whole intent of this federal funding is to get stimulus into the economy and get it going now. There's already been delays on this. We've had this money since March or May, and there's more money coming. So anything that we can do to enhance the project and enhance the grant and so on, we'd be willing to sit down and discuss this. We just want to keep moving forward.
Tom?
I think that sounds prudent. I'd be very happy to see what they got going forward, and I'd make approval upon them bringing back something to us. So at this, rather than shut the whole thing down, I'd want to move it to we'll say move it to administration. I'd make that motion, move to administration.
Support.
Kim?
Keith, you probably can, because this is going to be addressed next week at the full board meeting. You can provide to Amber Construction. You need $250,000 to finish the project in order to open up the doors. It's not really complex.
No, we could specify certain areas that we've done and certain things that are pending, and things that we need to do before we can open.
And you can work with Amber by next Tuesday, have the information that's needed, and then we can, because we're going to approve this address this next Tuesday.
We probably could hand it to her by Friday.
Sounds good.
Okay, Tom has made the motion, referring it back to work with Amber. Vaughn supported it. Are we ready to vote on that? Any other discussion? Should we do this individually or as a group?
Can I,
Jamie?
just real quick. I understand, I believe, where Tom's coming from, and the same point that you tried to make, as did Bob, about being, we know even if we've narrowed down some projects like this that we feel are excellent opportunities for good things to happen, we want to make sure that we've got situations where they can come in and give like quarterly reports or what have you, entering into some sort of like real contractual stuff so that you make sure that you know exactly where this money is going and how it's being affected. And because we have to do that for the purposes of documenting the use anyway. When you're giving this money out, acting as a fiduciary from the federal government to give these things out at your county level, you have to make sure that you're making sure that it's being used appropriately.
We'd need that information for auditing purposes from the federal government.
Right. So even if you're talking about a situation where we know how much the need is, and we know that even if you're giving $250,000 to a project that's going to affect veterans that are coming home, if you're able to help retrain them or keep them in the right track, and even put 2 people back into the workforce at approximately making $50,000 to $60,000 a year, which would be super awesome, but you got like 2 people. Within 2 years, you would have made any of that money back that you just handed out. So you know that in cases such as this, as long as it's run appropriately, it's going to be effective. You're going to help somebody's life at some point. But we have to make sure that we're crossing all the T's, making sure that we've got people that are actually going to come in and be able to give reports as to how things are being done and what you're using the money for specifically. Correct?
Correct.
And so in that vein, if you're talking about being able to put that back so that you can go ahead and look at it and look it over for the next meeting, that makes sense.
Kim?
Yeah, I'm not going to support referring it because we've got a week for the veterans to provide to Amber what we would need in order to have a contract, and we can look at it then and vote yes or no then. I don't think there's a reason to refer it. We just pass it today and address it next Tuesday.
Do you feel that you'd have enough time?
I don't know. I can't tell you until I see.
Well, at the same time, I don't know where 2 weeks or 3 weeks even is significantly impactful, my opinion, because the project was not off the ground before, during, or after, right? So they're trying to get it off the ground. I don't think us doing our due diligence is something that happens after the fact. I think we need to dot the i's and cross the t's first. My personal view. The vote is whether or not, or the decision to vote, the motion is whether or not to refer to have the contract developed and specifically how the money will be used. Is that correct? Okay. Deanne, you think we should do this individually or as a group? All right, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed?
Here.
Okay, so Mr. Coonan and Mr. Craig are opposed.
Hey, you can't vote, Vaughn.
Well, I'm not voting on appropriating the money, but I think we'd have to have legal counsel. It's not to appropriate the money.
To refer.
To refer. So I believe that passed, 1, 2, 3, 5 to 2. Okay.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. So where does this stand then? What did this action just do for us? I mean, for everybody.
Get the information to me so we can come up with a contract and present the contract.
Okay, thank you. And I apologize for leaving because we're hanging the wreath at Battery Park, the goes to monument in recognition of Pearl Harbor's 80-year anniversary. So thank you
Okay, thank you.
for all of you.
Okay, moving on to item I, there's a resolution for the settlement documents for the opioid litigation.
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And then there's a resolution for to receive the Insulin Task Force Initiative.
Support.
Talk. Moved and supported. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Item J1, a resolution for the continuation of allocation of healthcare costs of 85% to the county and 15% to the employees.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? All those in favor? Ooh, sorry, Vaughn.
I would point out that a lot of counties do a higher number, like 20%. So we're, just point that out. We do it every year.
Yep, okay. Thank you.
18 years.
18 years. yeah.
Is that a comment? Are you discussing, Mr. Krieger?
No, just pointing out that Vaughn's done this for 18 years, so.
Okay. Thank you for letting us newly folks know that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. A resolution to approve the contractual agreement with the Michigan Department of State Subscription Service Program.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And then a resolution seeking approval of the 2022 renewal of the ASC and stop-loss contract with Blue Cross.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. In item K, there's a resolution seeking approval of a budget adjustment
So
with the Environmental Affairs and Community Development.
I would like to make a motion to refer this back to the Personnel Director.
Is that supported?
Support.
Moved and supported. Discussion? Jamie, supported.
Support. Is that louder?
I heard you.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, there is a resolution for payables.
So moved. To receive.
Support.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. There's a motion to receive the analysis of the general fund equity.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
It was a long day.
Motion carried. There's a resolution for the Executive Directive number 2007-11 update, to receive that update.
So moved.
support.
Moved in discussion, or moved and supported. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item M3, a resolution for the to renew the mosquito control aerial application contract.
So moved.
Support. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Resolution for the 2022 budgeted maintenance expenses.
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. A resolution for budget adjustments.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And then a resolution to update the chart of accounts to be in compliance with
So
the
moved.
Michigan Uniform Chart of Accounts.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, moving on to item 8. Are there any referrals? Any unfinished business? Any new business? Kim?
Yes, if this is the proper time, I'd like to make a motion to allocate $300,000 to the Boys and Girls Club for Pinconning and Essexville. And I'm sure you guys will provide the needed information that we need in order to satisfy everyone.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? So like the veterans, what about a contract?
I would indicate that a contract should reflect that this is for the cost of staffing for those 2 units.
I do have a question on that. So you had mentioned 100% staffing, and I just wanted to know if program materials, only because that was what I would love to do is share with you what we've worked with Bay City on for those ARPA funds, and some things like program materials, they've even said it indicates portion of utilities, things like that, so I want to make sure I have that.
I personally don't have any preference at all as to what you use it for. I'm just going based on the proposal that was submitted.
Okay, and that, yeah, it was a brief letter.
Yeah, so I don't get a vote.
If it's, I don't know who I would share that with you, but I have been working with them. We haven't finalized any decisions on what that's going to look like, but I provided some different charts and breakdowns of what might work. I can share that with somebody, and as well as they have a lawyer look at it. So I can share any, I'll be completely transparent with anything we've already worked on.
Yeah, I don't have a preference on what the money is used for, so long as the board's in approval of it. I can put anything in a contract and make sure that the board sees the contract before it's approved at the next meeting that it takes this up at.
Because obviously Essexville won't be building because it's within a school, but the other clubs are self-sustained.
Well, we know the money's going to be put to good use, so we have faith in it, sure.
So,
and I would include in that contract reporting requirements as well.
So what's the best way to say that then? Is it the motion pending?
Motion to approve $300,000 appropriated to the Boys and Girls Club for Essexville, Hampton, and Pinconning for staffing and program expenses, subject to approval of a contract through Corporation Council.
Is Dan writing all that down?
I'm wondering, and will you modify?
We're good.
Will you modify your
I don't remember what you said.
motion?
I know what you mean, but I didn't write it down.
I just want to be clear on the amount.
300,000. And Deanne, I guess if it needs to be reworded to the resolution, you can do that, I'm sure. You've been doing it for a while.
So is it acceptable to word your motion as Amber suggested?
Sure.
And Jamie, do you still support that?
Excellent.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, is there a reason to go into closed session?
There is not, Madam Chair. Thank goodness, no.
Miscellaneous items? Anybody? Vaughn?
I have announcements.
Okay, we'll skip miscellaneous and go to
Get out here
you.
in a couple minutes, but you're going to have a wreath laying ceremony over at Battery Park, but I think it's a brief ceremony. They had the Veterans Committee had a ceremony at 4 o'clock today out front here for Pearl Harbor. Today's Pearl Harbor Day, so that was two programs that they had. That's all I have.
Okay. Craig?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I just had a brief announcement that the animal shelter is having the Bissell adoption event going on this week and next week. They've extended it a week before the holidays, hoping to get some animals some homes for Christmas and whatnot. Prices are adult cats are only $5, kittens are $20, and dogs are $25. This also includes microchipping, but the adopter would be responsible for the registration cost to get the animal, the information onto that microchip. I would also like to just briefly add a thank you to the commissioners as well as County Executive Barsha for helping the animal shelter and their support during a very challenging time. So we certainly appreciate it over there. So thank you very much.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Krager?
I move to adjourn.
Support.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Opposed, motion carried. Our
got
work
1
is
minute?
done. Tiffany.